Seth, you ready?
And yes, you are all set. Have a good night.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everybody. It is April 25th, 2023, and this is the select board meeting. We have a joint meeting that we're going to start with the school committee, and then we'll go into a brief delay and then have our regular select board meeting. So with that being said, I'd like to have an acceptance of the agenda and call the meeting to order for the 6:30 joint meeting. Second by Mr. Goodrich. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. I'll pass it over to you, Nicole.
Thank you, and I will call the joint school committee and select board meeting to order for 2023 at 6:32. Yeah.
No voting or?
We're on some, yeah.
Awesome. All right, so tonight our joint meeting is going to be to select a temporary replacement for the remainder of the term for a school committee member. Spoke with town council months ago, and we were told that even though it's for a short period of time, that this is the proper way to fill this position. And so we reached out to everybody in the town and made it open, and we got 5 applicants. I want to thank you all for applying. We're very gracious of you doing that, because it is somewhat of a formality. I think there's only going to be 2 meetings that you'll actually attend before the election, and then a new person will be elected and put into that seat. So, but still, we need the seat filled, and it is an important role, and we want to thank you guys for sticking your hand up to do the job. With that being said, do you want to?
Excuse me, Mr. Vignani, Mike's gonna take a look at your computer.
Yeah.
I need to do a roll call vote to open the meeting and for every motion tonight,
Okay.
okay?
So
And Ms. Brandolini needs to call the school committee meeting to order.
we did.
Okay, perfect, I was in the hall, thank you.
But we
Just
didn't.
making sure we do it right, okay?
Yeah, we didn't do a roll. Do we have to do a roll call vote just to open the meeting?
Yes,
Okay. So
okay, so Mr. Vignani,
yes.
Mr. Goodrich.
Yes.
Ms. Curran.
Yes.
Ms. Canfield.
Yes.
Ms. Conley.
Yes.
Ms. Brandolini.
Yes.
Ms. Lindblom.
Yes.
Dr. Burkowski.
Yes.
Mr. Gates.
Yes.
Great. Thanks, Lorraine.
Yes, thank you.
So just here's the format that we're gonna follow tonight. We're gonna give each applicant 3 to 5 minutes to come up and just talk about basically just tell us why you wanna do this. We've gotten your letters, we've gotten your resumes, you don't really have to go over all that much detail and stuff of you've already provided us. If anybody has a quick question, then they can ask that question. And then when we're all done, we all have these rating sheets. We're all gonna vote. I'm gonna give the ballots to Lorraine. We're gonna take a quick recess while she goes and tabulates it, then we're gonna come back and say who we are gonna for. Okay? Any questions on that?
One more thing we might want to mention is we're gonna do a 3-minute warning because we are under a tight time frame. We have another select meeting after. So everybody will get a 3-minute warning. It's not to be rude. It's just to move things along quickly. Okay?
Great. Nicole, anything to add from your point of view?
I think that covers it, just on behalf of the school committee, thank you to everyone who applied, and yes, I completely agree with Tony, we thank you for stepping up.
All right, so I'm just gonna go, the list is in, I don't think it's in any, no, it is up there. Great, so Richard Hebert, if you wanna come up and.
Sure. You want me to list the name?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Good evening.
Just give your name and address also.
Sure. Richard Hebert, 21 Walnut Avenue, Scituate. And the question was, why do I want to do
Yeah,
it?
why do you wanna do this?
Well, actually, I saw that there was a need, for a short term, so knowing my experience, I figured, why not, I could help out. It's a civic responsibility, and you can do something, I suppose, that is within your wheelhouse, and so I thought that this would work pretty well for me. If some of you probably know it, but some of you don't, I taught here at Scituate for 34 years, 35 years actually, and I was on the school committee for 9, so education in Scituate certainly is an important part of my life, and particularly my adult life, so I thought with that experience, there would not be any kind of learning curve. I realize it's only a 2-meeting position, that I'd only be around for 2 meetings, but certainly I would not have to really come up to speed on most things, I would imagine, since I hadn't been here before. And so it's very quick. Just thought I would do what I thought citizen of Scituate should do, step up when you can, and do what you can when you can.
Great. Thank you, Rich. Did a great job on the school committee, and I agree with you. I also want to say, none of you, when you put your name in the hat, knew that anybody else was gonna put their name in the hat. So,
Yeah, no, this is wonderful that you have 5 people, I was afraid that maybe.
Before you go, let me just see, does anyone have any questions for Rich?
Just a quick question that I wanted to ask everyone, just for knowledge wise, our meetings are May 1st and then May 15th, so just wanted to see if you had availability, since it is only 2 meetings, if there was anything on your calendar that would prevent you from attending either of those two at all.
I'm fine.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. You guys are good with that? Okay? Yeah, I'm good, okay. The next applicant is Dr. Sheila, is it Cuskis?
Custis.
Cuskis, thank you.
I tell the children in school 2 syllables, adults never get it. Always get it. I'm Sheila Custis. I would echo Mr. Hebert's sentiments that you do what you have to do when you live in this town, and you step up. I have lived in here for over 40 years, moved down here from Boston right after I got married. But I've been in education even longer than that, straight, even through 3 kids. So I've seen all parts of education, all levels, special ed, regular ed, administrator, charter school, public school, and private schools. So this is my life. I love this. I've been on the library trustees. I've been on the Conservation Commission. I also am the vice president and the grants coordinator for SEF, the Scituate Education Foundation. So these are the types of things I love to do. This was available and I thought, yeah, I could do this. Yeah, I think I could do this. And as to answer your question, I'm available both days. One of them I'm out of town, so I'd have to attend virtually. And I will tell you over the last few years, about 90% of my meetings are virtual. The second I'm in town, but I am out of town, but available. Great.
Thank you, Dr. Any questions? Any other questions for the applicants? All good?
All right,
Great, well, thank you for coming in.
thank you.
Moving to the next candidate, Emily Murphy.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Everyone's been quick, short, and sweet, so I will curtail my long speech.
Probably a minute, so you.
Okay, am I gonna pick that? My name is Emily Murphy. I am a proud graduate of Hingham Public Schools, but my mom was a graduate of the Scituate Public Schools along with 4 siblings, and I consider myself an honorary town member from coming here this summer, and now I'm an official town member. I moved back here with my husband and 2 sons a couple years ago, and they will be soon to be Scituate Public School attendees, not yet. But I'm looking to participate actively in this community and help grow it for my children and our neighbors in our community. And I want to leverage my experience as an educator. Almost 20 years, who's counting, maybe 20 years or more. I started as a high school English teacher in public schools in New York City, working with underserved students. It really instilled for me a passion and desire to help students get the right resources and also help me empathize with the teacher role, which was humbling to say the least. I worked really hard, but I also realized how many resources it takes to make a teacher's job effective, to make them thrive in their role. From there, I moved into the private sector, working for education publishing companies as well as technology companies. And those jobs took me all over the country, seeing schools and districts in large and small districts, large and small, urban and rural, rich and poor. And it really gave me a first row seat to the complex world of the school decision-making process for teachers, for administrators, for parents, for principals and families. And so I'm looking to continue that experience here as a citizen, as a active community member. And specifically, I really want to help teachers have a voice in that decision-making. I want them to have a voice in what new resources, content, curriculum, technology, tools that they need, because as their students and my kids will tell us, our kids will tell us, things are changing really quickly. So I just want to make sure that they have support, they have a voice, and I want to help be a bridge to all the decision makers, teachers, administrators, family members. So that's my long-term ambition. I know this is a short-term stint, but I hope to be able to serve at some point. And yeah, if they have to take any more questions about my experience or my hopes from the
Great, thanks, Emily. Any questions?
Just the time commitment piece.
I'm available.
So did you have any interest in running for the school committee in the future? I know this election is already set and the candidates already turned in the papers. Do you have any interest in the future?
Yes, I would.
You write it.
Great.
Any other question make it to the second?
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, the next applicant is Richard Taft. How are you, Richard?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks for coming in.
You're welcome. So I've done this before, running for school committee. I think the school committee deserves a point of view that it doesn't have right now. I think that it needs individuals with a wide range of experience in different areas. I think one of the places that it doesn't do a good job of, that I have a lot of experience, is asking questions why. I did that very effectively in the capital planning committee. I can give you an example in the school committee. So a few months ago, the school committee had the assistant superintendent present the AP results for the kids from last year. And 79% of the kids got a 3 or better. Great. But when they report those results to the Mass Department of Education, 67% of the tests got 3 or better. Why the difference, right? So that's fundamentally the kinds of things that I do. I ask, why would we have the difference between what we report to the school committee and what we report to the Mass DOE? Why did we have more total tests? Why do we consistently perform worse than the national average in AP Math and Science? Why did too fewer kids take the AP test, AP Science test? Why do we have half the proficiency in AP exams in chemistry and physics? So that's just one example. I can give you lots of examples, but you get the idea. I ask a lot of questions. I ask why. My background is in manufacturing. When we want to make a better quality product, when we want to improve a defect, we ask why. It's actually called the 5 whys method. You ask why 5 times when you try to get to the root cause problem, and along the way you'll discover the causes. You'll discover countermeasures as you ask those questions. And we don't do that. And it's not that the school committee's bad or bad people or anything like that. It's just they lack one of these skills that I have. And like I said, I did that in the advisory capital planning committee. And the product that we produced for you, for the select board, was better than it was in the past. We asked more questions, and we got better results. And even if it's only for a month, showing that skill and having that skill presented in the school committee would be valuable for everybody. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Taft?
Yes, I can be available for
I just have a question for
Sure.
those. So did you reach out to ask those questions? It's just out of your curiosity on AP related?
Yeah, actually, I actually sent a public records request in to get the information. And I do ask those questions all the time. And it's sad that somebody has to actually ask those questions by public records request.
Did you just
These
ask
are the kinds of things that the school committee, if you're on the school committee, would ask, you would ask like the 5 whys. So that's kind of what I'm trying to say.
So no emails directly to the superintendent for those questions?
I sent a public records request in for the information that I got.
Any other questions?
I'm just curious, if with all these questions, there is a public comment opportunity, and I'm just wondering if you're gonna be a member of the school committee, it requires you to be present. And so given that you have these 5 whys, what kept you from showing up at public comment to ask all these important questions that you have?
I think what I'm trying to demonstrate here is, as I did in the capital planning committee, is if you're on the committee, right, you lack a skill that is rooted in quality control, whether you're building refrigerators or rockets, whether you're trying to make people lifelong learners, you're trying to get to a better quality product. I'm giving you an example. I can give you other examples. I asked the kids, same examples when we had capital planning, we were talking about capital budgets for schools. If computers have replaced books as the primary tool for learning, why did computers become a capital expense? They should be an operating expense because they're part of your operation. So, when I'm in those meetings and I'm seeing those issues presented for me, so we're talking about 2 meetings in which I don't know if the issues will be presented before us, right? You're gonna ask why. Why do these things happen? And you're trying to get to the root cause. You're trying to discover the countermeasure along the way. That's what I'm trying to
I think
provide
they,
example of.
sorry to interrupt, I think they get that. I think the question is, teamwork wise, and communication wise to kind of supersede the process and go and say, I'm gonna file a request to get public information, to not interact with the team that's doing it, the people that are doing it, is that gonna be an issue?
Well, what I'm trying to say is that as part of the capital planning committee, when I was on the committee, I was interested, and I think if you were to poll any of those people on that committee, they recognize that our work product was better when we asked those kinds of questions.
I guess I was just asking a simple question, which was, why aren't you present at the meetings to ask these 5 whys? That's all I'm asking. I'm asking why you're not present to ask all these questions. I mean, you're part of the community.
I am part of the community.
And we as a group, we pride ourselves on collaborating and communicating and coordinating with the administration, our select board, our parents, our community members.
Mhm.
But we can't have these important conversations without the presence and collaboration from the community. We do hear from individuals, and I haven't seen you ask any of these questions at a meeting, so I'm just asking, why not show up?
And, well, you're right, I don't show up for every school board meeting, not on the school board.
But you don't
But I
need to be
actually-
on the school
but-
board
but-
to
but
be,
to
the
be
school
fair,
committee actually to be present, is all I'm saying.
To be fair, I asked these exact same questions in the last election. And y'all still don't ask these questions.
Well, thank you very much. Did anyone else have any questions? Okay, that's it. Thank you, Mr. Duff. And the last applicant is Natalie, is it Wagner?
Hi, Natalie Wagner, 457 Country Way in Scituate. Mine will be short and sweet. I've lived in Scituate for 18 years, moved here after moving all around the country. And I am a veterinarian by trade, semi-retired, and able to step up now to the civil duties that I think, we all should try to put some time in for. I have 2 kids in the Scituate public school system currently, so I have a vested interest in making sure that these kids get the very best that I can help provide. I am extremely interested in trying to contribute to expanding the committee's diversity of perspective. And I think that's, it's similar to what Richard was saying, but diversity of perspective, people who are not teachers by trade, who look at things in a different way, may bring up different questions. I believe that, vigorous debate, discussion, and questions will create a stronger product for the community and for these kids. That's about all I have. I'm available.
Great, any questions for the school team?
I had a quick question, I'm so curious, you're a veterinarian, so I'm wondering, what does your experience as a veterinarian bring to the school committee?
So I've spent over 20 years as an advocate for voiceless patients. Okay, so I do think that applies indirectly. And I was a manager, I owned a hospital, I had a diverse workforce, we had a really good practice that worked beautifully for the community, which was South Boston, not Scituate, but
Yeah, thank you.
And I just want, just a clarifying point, because this gets brought up a lot. None of us are actually classroom teachers, and we all work in extremely different fields, from finance and investment. I'm a therapist. We don't all have any similar backgrounds or experiences. A professor, so we're just coming from lots of different areas, and we're open always to talking more about that if you're ever interested.
that hearing words, it would be great. And I will say,
Absolutely.
there are, you mentioned there are a lot of people who come and make comments. And I've noticed in attending, and I do try to attend a lot of meetings. I do not bring up comments at very many. I like to pay attention, I like to listen to what's going on. The comments that I have heard, I have never heard any of them be addressed, which is disturbing to me. So I would like to, some of the people who have mentioned or brought up comments, I'd like to hear what happened with those comments at some later date. I understand they might not be addressed at that moment. Okay, but I've been there for follow-up for months and I've not heard anything about any of those questions or comments.
No problem. And if you want to send me an email with any of those comments that you've heard that you feel like you haven't gotten this.
I'd like to hear about any of them.
Certainly do. I haven't had one single public comment in a meeting in about 6 months, so.
Well, I mean, I've been
Absolutely.
attending longer than 6 months.
Sure. So send me an email and we will happily address any of your questions. Thank you.
Any questions in the select board?
I'd just like to make a comment as a former school committee member. That was always a very frustrating format for me as well. It's been a long-standing format, so it's not necessarily
Thank you.
their fault. It's probably the fault of the system that needs
I
to
agree.
change, because I used to hate that
I agree
as a
with
committee
that.
member. So
It's
I don't know how to
frustrating
change
too.
that, but it would be nice to change it.
And then anything that is, you've got, you changed the format so that the public comment is at the beginning,
Yes.
which is great. But no one can ask a question or make a comment about anything that takes place during that meeting that they've attended. I don't know if you'd be willing to open it up to comment at the beginning and the end at some point.
And again, just if anything comes up, please just send an email, email the superintendent, email anybody who you need an answer to a question. We are super here and
Email Mr. Berkman regularly, so.
happy to answer anything.
If there's no other questions, thank you for coming in. So thank you all 5 of you for coming in and giving us a little quick snippet of why you want to do this, and just, most of all, just for, like I said, putting your hand up saying you will be. Again, it's only for 2 meetings, it's somewhat of a formality, we've discussed whether we even had to do it or not do it, brought town council in, and they said that the right thing for us to do would be to appoint it, even though it is for a short period of time, so. At this point in time, everybody has their,
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I don't think we said at the beginning, people sent in very thoughtful letters, information, very thorough. So I don't want anyone out there to think we're not asking questions because we don't care. But the answers were very thorough and people had wonderful resumes. So I personally, and I think the whole, both boards appreciate the time you took for that. So thank you.
Any other comments? So we all have a simple form, has everybody's name there, there's a ranking here. We're gonna say 1 is the favorite, going that way. You can vote all 5, you can just pick 1, whatever you wanna do. And then Lorraine will go out and she will tabulate them together and figure out who gets the most amount of votes, the highest ranking. And then we will go from there, and then we'll take a quick recess, you guys can stay here, and we'll come back and announce it within minutes. Okay, so we're gonna take a minute and.
Chair, I just have a question.
Go down the hall.
Maybe they could just go and get some debate. This is actually very.
Yeah.
One is the highest.
One is the highest.
Make sure your name isn't watching.
Yeah, that's great.
We've already got these. Which is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna just wait a couple of minutes, talk amongst yourselves, and then we'll come back and make a motion.
That's right, I was. Oh my gosh, I was that. Oh my gosh, I actually told that, I did.
Oh, you're right.
I think that's.
think, yeah, because I was like,
Oh my god.
There's a cabbage
That was just hitting the other day, so.
No, the teachers.
You guys want to be on
Very nice right here. You have a good chair. We're on sale. Big room. Who's budget? Ours is the.
Yeah, so
Pretty good. Take a new one. What's on your budget, right?
my work schedule,
Okay.
but
I just thought we'd do this together.
yes, probably go over maybe around.
Oh, I was gonna say, I had to try to draw 11 work, might be, I think so, I had to try to, just let me know. So they were doing very well. I thought the same
Thanks for pulling this together.
I went out all day. I don't think I should do that. I wanted to actually start really good conversation. Yeah. I'm still impressed with it from the National Association of Homestead. Don't ask the wrong way or like at the academy.
I thought I was gonna check that right.
What is your number? Yeah, just thank you very much. That's what I'm trying to do.
You did or you didn't?
Yeah.
All right, Lorraine, thank you for doing this so quickly.
I don't understand.
Are we all? The top one, so the numbers on the right that are circled are the number of first place votes.
Okay.
I don't,
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what they,
got it.
yeah, right.
I was just counting.
And I don't understand.
And this, the circle total is like
This is a
opposite
test.
of how we voted,
Exactly.
just to keep us on our toes. So it's the number.
Okay, so we're gonna do
Living it up. Yes.
All right, so we got the voting in and Richard Hebert is the one that's been selected to sit on the term for the school committee meeting for the last 2 meetings. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, all of you, for participating. I think Kathy is down in the clerk's office. She can probably go in right now.
So we can make a motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, move to approve the interim appointment of Richard Hebert to the vacancy on the Scituate School Committee until the 2023 annual town election. Need a roll call.
Second.
Second by Ms. Canfield. Okay. And roll call vote, Mr. Vignani,
Yes.
Mr. Goodrich.
Yes.
Ms. Curran,
Yes.
Ms. Canfield,
Yes.
Ms. Conley,
Yes.
Ms. Brandalini,
Yes.
Ms. Lindblom,
Yes.
Dr. Burkowski,
Yes.
Mr. Gates.
Yes.
Great, it's unanimous.
And we just need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, wait,
Second by Ms. Canfield.
Okay, and I have to do a roll call vote to adjourn the meeting. Mr. Vignani,
Yes.
Mr. Goodrich,
Yes.
Ms. Curran,
Yes.
Ms. Canfield,
Yes.
Ms. Conley,
Yes.
Ms. Brandalini,
Yes.
Ms. Lindblom,
Yes.
Dr. Burkowski,
Yes.
Mr. Gates.
Yes.
Thank you all for coming in.
Thank you.
Still worked out.
Still worked out, 'cause I added it to the list. I know, it makes me nervous.
No, thank you guys. Yeah. Now, I'm leaving Thursday. So,
Yeah, just one in. Yeah, you know,
You mean the material?
Yeah, you're gonna be gone on Thursday.
It's all electronic. Hey, Rich, congratulations.
Thank you.
Take it outside.
Thank you.
Thank you to both.
There should be any unforeseen.
That's what.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, Marie. Oh, but you're. Okay.
It's okay, that's. It's
Okay, I'll fix it. I'll make sure your license is done. Thank you for
We're all set? Thank you all. We now want to call our April 25th, it's a little bit after 7 o'clock, our April 25th Select Board meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order and get an acceptance of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Second by Ms. Canfield, all in favor? Aye, it is unanimous, great. Are there any walk-ins here this evening? No, any comments?
What walk-ins, I'm on the agenda.
No, behind you, I got like a shrub, so.
What does that mean, a walk-in?
If you want to come in and discuss a topic to us
So that's not on the agenda?
that's not on the agenda, then we can discuss it. We can't really have any back and forth, but we can hear your concern. None? Okay. I'd like to read the statement. The Scituate Select Board is committed to providing an environment of respect during meetings. We ask all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there's disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcome and respected. We ask committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards to support and respect our community. And with that, I will turn it over to the town administrator for his report.
Good evening, last update for April, can't believe it's gonna be May next week, but that's where we are. So for our water update, the reservoir's at +1.5, last time we did this, we were +2. Tac factory's at +2, it's now from 2.25 from our last update. Average daily demand was 1.097 million gallons a day, That's down from my last report of 1.136. Rainfall was 0.05 measured at the plant, that does not include Sunday's rain. The water department will continue flushing water mains this spring as we go along, as long as we have water supply. The town website contains any information people can know that. Starting Monday, May 1st, the town will enter our annual water conservation measures. Between May 1st and September 30th, all outdoor watering must occur before 9 a.m. and after 5 p.m. Automatic irrigation systems may be used 1 day per week based on voting precincts. You can go to the water department website for information as to when you can water with your automatic irrigation. Also water related, I want to congratulate the entire water department staff for being recognized by Mass DEP Drinking Water Program for outstanding performance in 2022. Scituate Water is being recognized in the water conservation category of the 2023 Public Water System Awards Program. So we'll post that on our website for people to look at, but we talked about it all along. The men and women in the water department work very hard with really antiquated equipment, so good for them for getting that award. The board recalls, we were scheduled to close the town hall in December to do training for all our staff. We had some COVID outbreaks at the time, so that was postponed. So the town hall and most town departments will be closed this Friday, April 28th, for staff training. The library, the council on aging, recreation, and the transfer station will all open after the training is over, either at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock for the transfer station. We do have the sign at the transfer station, many people know we will be opening at 1 o'clock. We've been doing this before COVID, usually once or twice a year, we close for staff training. This is just big, we're doing pretty much every town department, with the exception of our public safety employees in this. So it'll be a good training. Thanks to Bob Clark for setting that up. It'll be taking place at the library and the council on aging. Big day coming up, Ship Shake Day, Saturday, May 6th, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Trash bags and supplies can be picked up here at the town hall until 1 o'clock, or at the Humrock Post Office until 12:30. According to Kevin and his crew and Sean, last year we picked up almost 9 tons of trash for Ship Shake Day. So if you get out on Saturday, that's great, otherwise Sunday's fine. And then the DPW crews will pick up the trash on Monday. This is really the big cleanup for the town, it really helps us out, so if people are available, please come out for Ship Shake Day and help us clean up. I sent this notice out to the board, but Marshfield and Scituate Fire Departments will be participating in a collaborative fire ground survival training program this week. Yesterday and today were classroom work. Tomorrow they will be at the Marshfield Fairgrounds doing the actual practical work. This intensive program is being funded via a regional federal assistance to firefighters grant. Fireground survival program will provide our personnel with essential life-saving skills needed to, quote, save themselves, unquote, in the event they become disoriented or trapped while operating on a fireground. This is a program put on by the International Association of Firefighters. It's considered one of the best of its kind in the country and is universally shown all over the country. So this is a great program. Chief Simpson of the Scituate Marshfield Police Department wrote the grant. The board wishes to attend sometime about between say 11 and 1. We'll be able to see it. They'll have lunch, be able to meet the firefighters. They'll also be there on Thursday. Great program. So thanks to Chief Simpson, and good luck to all our firefighters who are taking part in that training. Kathy Gardner wants to remind everybody the annual town election is May 20th at Scituate High School Gym. Poll hours are 8 to 6. May 10th is the deadline to register to vote if you are not already registered to vote in Scituate. Absentee ballots will be available to vote in person at the town clerk's office starting next week. The deadline to absentee vote in person is noon on May 19th. Vote by mail applications and a sample ballot can be found on the town clerk's webpage or the town website. If you'd like to vote by mail, print out the form, fill it out, and submit the vote by mail form to the town clerk's office. The deadline to request a mailed ballot is May 15th. Mailed ballots must be returned to the clerk's office or town hall drop box prior to the close of polls on election day. Mailed ballots are not to be brought to the polls. They must be either here or be put in the drop box. So please don't bring them to the polling. DPW crews are still on vinyl. That job's proceeding, looks pretty good. The town's contract at National Water Main, doing the first phase of our sewer inflow and infiltration project this week. They're expecting pipes in the Egypt Ave and Alden areas, and then they'll be moving into Sand Hills in the coming weeks. After the investigation process is complete, they'll return and begin the process of cleaning and lining the sewer pipes. As you know, the I-9 takes out all the leaks in the infiltration of the system, makes it easier for us to operate our plant, increases our capacity. If people have any questions, they call the sewer department at 545-8736. As always, as I said the other day, no good deed goes unpunished. We have announced the community aggregation program. People have signed up. We think it's going very well. However, several of our sister communities that are doing the program at the same time we have alerted us that some of their residents have received scam emails and text with regards to the electricity program. Please be aware, you will not be contacted by anyone via email, text, telephone, or in person with regards to this program. We have not received any notifications of people being scammed in Scituate, but we did want to make sure that people were aware that it has been happening in other towns. And please don't fall for it. If you have any questions or problems, either call my office or call the Scituate Police and let them know. The Central Field project is starting this week. I know the contractor's been up there, the fencing's going up, and they'll be starting that. That's the installation of a new softball field, repairs to the baseball field on Central Field. That work will continue late spring, early summer. I was down Cole Parkway today. All the docks are in for the dock maintenance program. They're doing the electrical now and the water. That will be all ready to go by the opening of the marina on May 15th. It looks great if you get a chance to get down there. Steve and his crew really did a nice job. The contractor did a nice job. It also includes 2 completely renovated docks for the sailing program. So if you're down there, you'll see 2 big docks that are kind of out of place. That's for the recreation sailing program. They'll be put out in time for that. Finally, just to update the board, I updated you previously that we had the torn and tattered flag over at the stadium field at the high school, and that the mechanism was broken on the flagpole. We repaired that mechanism. There is a new flag back up. So I'm proud to say in time for the spring sports, we do have the American flag back up, flying proudly at the stadium field over at Scituate High School. And that's what I have for today.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions for Jim?
I just want, Jim, just to be clear, the water measures is a state mandate too.
This is a state mandate that goes into effect based upon the usage in the entire aquifer district, not specific.
I just like to remind folks about that. I think that we just decided arbitrarily that it's required by the state.
Sticking with water, the water rebate program is funded. I think we have most of the forms and everything. Right.
Yeah, we know the new chair of the Water Resource Committee the other day, he's gonna send him the form, he wanted to look at it, and then once he looks at it, should be ready to go.
Person.
Where are we advertising that?
Wait till my weekly updates, we'll put it on the webpage, we'll do an email blast.
Social media.
Water bills?
It's just hard to do with the water bills, but sometimes it's hard to catch them, but if we can get something small enough to put in there, we can. When most people open their bills, it's like, where's my bill? Get my bill, we don't really pay attention to a lot of that stuff, but we can see if we can put some sort of small thing down in the water bills.
Maybe some signage, maybe the one at the.
Yeah, we can put the electronic signs up too, when we get ready to roll it out there.
One other quick question, Jim, what are they doing over behind the, they've got some engineers out behind the football field towards Cushing? Do you know what they're doing back there?
Yeah, I mean, next might be the Hadley School project, but that doesn't seem to make sense to me. I know they were looking at their money to look at expanding of the tennis courts, but I don't know why they'd be all the way over by the Cushing.
They've marked out some areas. I don't know if you can, some engineers have been out there in the morning.
It's not anything we're doing, might be something the school about, but I don't think it's anything to do.
Hey, is it that walkway for conservation that goes back there, that we improved?
You know that area that's wet that they thought about using, literally just behind the end zone towards?
Yeah, but it might be because the walkway goes kind of parallel to that and down by that grade that we approved, I think, 2 meetings ago.
But maybe.
Okay, I don't know, I'm just guessing if that's gonna be it.
It was that CPC trail that from the last, I think in the spring.
I mean, it could be part of the due diligence for the new elementary school, but look at the Cushing site as well as the site for Hadley, so it could be that. It should be the pathway because we haven't signed a contract with anybody to go and do it.
To do that, yeah.
Let's see how they do that.
And the other thing I just want to reiterate, that Jim just mentioned, but he was going through stuff. So we have put in the electricity aggregation system, and there are people calling up scamming you on it. No one from the community and no one from the aggregation company is making phone calls to anybody. So if you get a phone call from somebody talking about your electric bill, it's a scam. Don't give them any personal information, hang up,
No, it's National Grid, that's what's calling out.
okay? Great. All right, thank you, Jim. We'll get on to our first item, which is a discussion to vote on water main replacement. Kevin and Sean, I guess.
Good evening. So this contract is the first phase in the new water treatment plant. So it is basically running the raw water pipe from the existing intake in the reservoir back to Old Forge. While we're doing that, we figured it's not often you can shut down 3A and make a mess of everything, so we figured we'd replace the water lines at the same time. So we're killing two birds with one stone in one trench. So this is the contract for it. We went out to bid. We had 8 bidders on the project, and we have our low bidder, KJS, from Walpole, Mass.
Have you worked with them before?
We have not worked with KJS, but it used to be Saccone Brothers, and then the brothers broke up, so we worked with different factors of them. So they met all the requirements, and DOT approved to work on 3A, so there would be no reason to.
I know they're the group that's doing Beechwood Street over in Cohasset. Haven't heard good reviews, so curious who their references were.
So, do you have the references?
No, and Woodward and Curran.
It was Woodward and Curran performed
They
the
will know.
interview on that to take a look
We just
at
may
it.
wanna check it out, I just know the residents over there are not happy with the way in which they've managed the project. Now, it's a windier, smaller road, we get that, many more residential however's and implications, I would imagine, than where this is going.
Beechwood Street? Yep, they're doing the work on
Yeah.
Beechwood Street. Go ahead.
So that's my only concern when I saw the name on the backup.
Any questions?
So I know local peers get us in this situation.
No, I'm just wondering, you know, what the timing is on awarding the contract, obviously, I don't wanna delay this, because
No, I don't, we're at the limit of that contract, and if anything did come up, we would have, if it was possible to, I'm not saying we're looking to disqualify people, but we did look at everything that we had, that's a current project that didn't remove their disqualification to work for the state or anybody else, so they may have a tough go over there, it might be the way the job is designed or how it's set up. We're probably gonna have our forces overseeing the job, and we're gonna, do what we can to keep in line, as well as the state will be up there too.
Speaking of that question, will the state be there as well?
State will be involved also, I don't expect to see them every day, but one of the things that you typically ask for, the state has a 6-hour window that they can work. And if you're a good contractor and do good work and take care of your site and everything else, sometimes they'll extend it by an hour or even 2 hours and let you work earlier or later. And that's what they'd be going for. Because obviously they're more productive if they can work an extra hour. Our contract's written in such a way that at the end of every day, they're to pave the path and the trench that they dig up, so that there's no dirt left up in the road, which is one of the things that we've seen in Cohasset and in Norwell in the past. So we try to mitigate a lot of those things, but sometimes, like I said, it's how the contract's written. As well as the state guidelines are pretty strict too, of what you can and can't do, and what you can leave and what you can't leave, as well as the traffic details, traffic setup and everything else. So, we're hoping that obviously they do a great job, and if they're not, we will battle with them.
Okay.
We'll hold them accountable.
So what is this bid under the budget, what we expected to pay for that?
It's right in there, I mean, yes.
Which one?
No, there's been 2 estimates, our original estimate, this is higher than our original estimate, where we were, but that's because the pipe prices have gone up significantly, from when we originally allocated the money for this. So one of the things that we're doing is we're using, we're working with our paving, including a little more paving from our water project. to take care of some of this work also, so that we're not taking excessive amounts out of the treatment plant.
Originally, the state had wanted us to repave the entire half of Route 3A. When we talked to some of the roads in lousy condition, like, well, that's your fault. We're not gonna fix it. So we were able to get a lot of that backed out. We only have to pave our trenches. If we have an area with multiple trenches, we'll have to cut that area out, repave it, but we'd have to repave the entire lane all the way. So we see some money. As Kevin said, a little higher than we originally thought, but I think it's a little less than our second estimate came in when we got the pipe prices.
So when is it happening and what are we doing? Is it on the right or left side of the road?
So it meanders a little bit. It moves down. The water line now is on the right side, I believe, on the edge of the road if you're looking
Heading
south.
north?
Heading north, and you're looking south, it's on the right side.
If I'm headed towards Cohasset,
Yeah, I didn't know I was looking south.
Looking south, that's a very dangerous way to drive.
If I'm looking
Hang
towards
on, you're looking
Cohasset,
at your
let me
rearview
start over, I'm at the top of the hill and I'm looking towards the bridge in Marshville. On the right-hand side, a lot of the water line goes, but it has to switch around a couple different areas, as well as the pipe has to be jacked underneath the culvert where the two reservoirs are. So there will be different construction activity on the culvert.
so will the road be closed completely?
The road is not gonna be closed completely ever, that's the plan, it'll always be open. And there'll be 2 lanes passing in each direction.
How's that?
It's a wider road, that's the way the traffic configuration is, it's a lot wider than say, 123.
So you think there'll be 2 lanes going consistently the whole time?
Yes, that's the plan.
So they'll be over in the other breakdown lane or whatever it is. Okay, and when does that happen?
Probably mid-June.
And how long?
I think today,
Yeah, it was, late fall, and then there'll be a restoration next
and
spring.
it'll be paving.
It's gonna take June, July, August.
Well, their hours are cut compared to what we allow on our roads. The state sets, as Kevin said earlier, it may be 9 to 3. You gotta be cleaned up and off the road, that's only 6 hours of work.
So you think it's gonna take 3 months to get it done?
Yeah, that's what their original estimate was, if everything goes smoothly.
It's 6,000 feet, and one of the things that we don't know yet, because we haven't awarded the contract to have pre-construction meetings yet. They may plan on putting two crews on the site, or we don't know if this is going to be disputed out.
Right. So it's a straight shot, I would think. Well, I don't know.
Well, it's 2 water lines plus the laterals, so it's a lot of work. This is the raw water line that will be running from the old open bucket to the site of the new water treatment plant. And then we're replacing the current service line on 3A, correct, Kevin? And then we'll have to replace all the laterals from that also, so it's a lot of work.
While you're maintaining the existing transite pipe that went in 1948, it's in rough condition.
So my last question goes to kind of Karen's or Laura's thought, does it make sense to call Cohasset tomorrow and see if there's any issues with this company before we go with the contract?
It's already been vetted through Woodward and Curran. We knew what we were dealing with, but we had asked if there's anything on it. It didn't have the grounds to disqualify many of the other projects that they have.
It's really hard to disqualify someone just because the town said they were difficult to work with.
But we don't know if it's just that, right? I mean, to Maura's point, we don't know if they were just difficult to work with or if they cut corners or didn't use rubber material, we don't know what it is.
You're right, exactly. We don't know what it is, and on those grounds, I don't think we could disqualify them. That's
No,
fine.
I'm saying, look, until we know, we could call Cohasset and find out what those grounds were tomorrow morning before we award the $4 million contract right now.
So can we do a contingent vote?
Do that also.
Yeah.
I
Because
mean, I think to someone's point that we don't want to delay it 2 weeks without, but if there's something major, I don't know, what do you guys think?
I mean, the number 2, it's only 100,000.
Right, we got some good bids. I don't know, Kevin, is that, do you want, I mean, we can pass it tonight, but I mean, if you were to call them up tomorrow and found that there was something major,
I'd be honest with you, I don't think it would hold up if we went to the AG's office, because we did call the AG's office. There was a very close project cost with CJP. We've had an excellent relationship with CJP. And if we could disqualify them, we probably would have gone with CJP, but we found no grounds to disqualify. Does that make sense?
it does, but you may get grounds if you called Cohasset and they said,
I don't think it would stand with the AG's office if we went to the AG's office and said Cohasset told us this. You know, we had both work in town, and we just had, this is Kevin Saccone, we just had his brother in town. Which project did they do? He just finished up. He just did the project on the vinyl, and he did a section on Hadley. He did one other too. And he did the one on Gannett Road.
yeah, and we don't know anything about,
We had
this is
these
all hearsay, so I don't
Right.
wanna
Right.
cite this company's name by
Right.
any means, I'm just saying, it's just our due
We
diligence.
had decent luck with them, and because we had successful projects in town, it would be hard for us to disqualify.
And we're not looking to
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just, but
Right, is everyone good with that?
And we're aware of that, we did, you know,
Any other questions? Everyone good this evening? All right, can I have a motion?
Move that the select board award the contract for the Route 3A water main replacement to KJS LLC of Walpole, Mass. For $3,846,907.40.
Second.
Second by Ms. Conley, further discussion, anyone in the audience? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous, 5-0.
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Next topic is a discussion vote and it's a change of subsection 15 package store wine and malt liquor license hours for New Harbor Corp. doing business as the Driftway's General Store. How are you?
Good, how are you? Good evening, everyone.
Come on, is he with you or is he not? Just your name and address, would be great.
So, this is Lyle Patel, I'm manager at Driftway General Store, New Harbor Corp. And 48 New Driftway.
Yep. And you're the manager and
He's a board member of the New Harbor Corp.
of the board, great. All right, so what are you trying to do?
So we're currently selling the malt beverage, malt liquor and wine at 9 p.m. and you're requesting the board to extend another hour to 10 p.m.
What time do you start in the morning?
We start from Monday to Saturday, we start at 8 a.m. and on Sundays, we start at 10 a.m.
Great. And most of the other places around you have the ability to.
Longer than 10 a.m., not 10 p.m. I mean.
You close at 10,
No, we close at 9, at this moment, correct, we close at 9 p.m.
but you're gonna extend your hours
Extend
to
hours
10.
until 10 p.m., correct.
Any questions?
No, that was my question, was the Reynolds and, or whatever it's called now, that's up until 10? Up until
Green
11?
Bush General Store?
Up until 11, okay.
Yes.
You guys are killing it. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Lorraine gave us all the data, so your hours, everyone around you has hours that are at least as extended that time period, so it seems reasonable. Any questions from the audience, anyone here for this topic? If not, I'll take a motion.
move to approve the change of, or what that is.
Section 15.
Section 15, sorry,
That's
package
okay.
store wine and malt liquor license hours for New Harbor Corp. doing business as Driftway General Store to extend hours to 10 p.m. Monday through Sunday, pending ABCC approval.
Correct. Second by Mr. Goodrich. Any further questions? Yes.
Some of the nicest folks that are there. My son goes in all, like, the employees, everyone's so nice, I just wanna say that. Love it.
Thank you very much. Good to you.
All right, any further comments, compliments, questions? Awesome.
Any recommendations?
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, everyone voted. It's 5-0 unanimously in favor, so congratulations, best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now we have a few,
We'll have a sign tonight and we're gonna leave it back from the invitation. Okay.
discussion votes on some outdoor entertainment permits. Is anybody here for this? Come on up. How are you?
Good, how are you guys?
Good.
This is my annual request for a outdoor entertainment permit for the Harbor United Methodist Church to have music associated with our First Friday Fish Fries. They've been very successful. We've been having a lot of good community involvement and participation. And I'm open to any questions or concerns. There are 4 dates: first Friday of June, July, September, and October. August, we have our annual pie social, which we encourage everybody to come.
The best.
So I can attest that I've been to the fish fry, the music's great, and the food's delicious, and the people are great, so.
Yes, and just so you know, all the proceeds from that go to local charities. So it's just local people that are benefiting from it.
And it's local bands, when I was
Local
there, there's
bands.
a,
The Brown Brothers are gonna be there, whoever shows up, the bluegrass band. They can have 10 people or 25 people in the band, depending on how many actually show up. That's a lot of fun. Boston Whalers and the Wikis, all local groups. Awesome, so we're,
any questions?
No, I just feel like it's Groundhog Day. I feel like you were here literally like a month ago. I don't know where the year went, so.
Kick off the
It's
summer.
I know, it's a kick off for summer, you're right.
Had me a pie.
It's fish fry.
We need to-
Yeah, that's right.
Any questions?
Sorry, we're all like
All right.
hungry.
Yes, you're making us hungry. Can I have a motion?
Move to grant an outdoor entertainment permit to the United Methodist Church for musicians playing live music on June 2nd, July 7th, September 1st, and October 6th from 6 to 8 p.m.
Second.
Second by Ms. Curran, further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous.
thank you.
Thank you.
See you in a couple of months. All right, is anyone here for the private event on Edward Foster Road?
I am, William McKelvey.
William, how are you?
How are you?
Good. So tell us what you have planned.
Well, my son is here.
Congratulations.
On June 17th, we want to have a big celebration in our backyard at 89 in Foster Road. We expect about 80 people. And he's located someone people may know, I know Chris Ballerini. I guess he does some singing with an acoustical guitar or a speaker and mic over at the roof shed.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we have in mind.
Very good. And where is 89?
When you cross the causeway,
Yeah. Oh,
89 takes a sharp left with the second house on the left.
Great. Great location. And we have the hours, right? It's 5 to 11.
It won't be going to 11. The invitation says 5 to 9. If it goes over a little bit, it might, but I wouldn't expect it to go beyond that period.
Okay, so what hours do you want the permit for, the license?
5 to 9:30. This is the only way in case someone's saying.
Why don't we do the 10? Have you notified all the butters?
We invited them.
Are there any butters here that have any questions?
That was a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
Laura?
80 people parking.
I have made arrangements with the town to have some parking permits over paving.
Okay.
So we'll try to keep them off it as much as possible, push as many cars as we can on our driveway if we need to, but we think in paving will probably take care of it.
Bringing a shovel from Peggy?
Yes.
Oh. It's not very safe road. Thank you.
Any other questions? Great, sounds like a great event. Can I have a motion? And we'll make it from 5 to 10.
Move to grant an outdoor entertainment permit to Mr. William McKelvey of 89 Edward Foster Road on Saturday, June 17th, 2023, from 5 to 10 p.m., 5 p.m. to 10.
Second by Mr. Goodrich. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it is unanimous, 5-0. Have a great time, congratulations. There's an event at Untold Brewing, I don't see Matt here, anyone here from Untold? they're pretty straightforward, 1 to 5, amplified music outside.
This is what you came in to talk to us about, the sustainability,
Oh, right.
this is the music portion of that, you came, I don't know, last meeting.
Right.
Block off the parking lot. Well, I actually have a question about that. Lorraine, is this part of the Get to
Yes.
Greenbush thing?
Yes, it is.
Because all of a sudden, I've never seen Cardigan apply for an outdoor entertainment permit. So I thought, oh, I've seen the signs popping up
Linda is here.
around town,
Yeah.
so.
We've never had to before.
Come on up, we'll make them, they're kind of a joint event, right?
Yeah.
Oh, they're
Yeah, we're part of the Greenbush event this year.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do? Have,
We're gonna have like a fair, we're gonna have the outdoor music, gonna have like, there's gonna be a food truck. And there's bouncy houses for kids and face painting and
oh,
things like
great.
that, yeah.
And live music from.
And everybody shows up
10 to 2.
from 12 to 2, yeah. I know it says 10 to 2.
Yeah, and
Great.
just for the board, the organizers have put out notices for folks to park at Lake T.
Oh, good.
Yeah, down at the train station and you can walk up.
Awesome. Does anyone have any questions for Linda regarding this event?
Well,
And then we'll do the other one next.
well, I guess I'm just a little concerned about whether or not there's gonna be some sort of management of people walking across the street from Untold over to Cardigan, down the street, because a lot of the merchants are involved in this. And does the police department, has anyone done any?
Well, there was no requirement for a special event permit because they're not using any public grounds. But certainly I can contact Scituate Police Department and have them get in touch with.
It's a signalized light, there's a light there, right at the.
Where?
Right at the intersection of, right at the train station. The driftways, and also it's a signalized intersection, so.
Yeah, but that's not where this is.
Going this way.
Yeah.
We're on the, yeah.
Oh,
everybody
back
else
the
is
other
on
way, yeah,
that
sorry.
side.
No, I'm just.
Wrong one.
It is a dangerous.
I think Karen raises a good point.
No, it's a good point, and I'll talk to Taylor Billy
Just
tomorrow.
non-official comment. Has the organizers of Get to Greenbush ever come before us? I don't know, at a meeting maybe when I wasn't here.
No, because
I
it's
think
not a
it's a-
special event.
Right,
There's no use of public grounds.
Right, it's
So
all.
it's a traffic issue,
Well,
if
I-
these people are walking all around Greenbush.
Well, they are advertising, like, tables on the street, and I just, I want to encourage it because
I haven't seen any advertising tables on the street.
I actually did, it was
Oh,
on the
interesting.
Chamber of Commerce website. It said no tables, and because of all the merchants, I'm not talking about
No, and I
parking.
think that merchant, they have like a dead end street, maybe that's where they're gonna do that, I don't know.
I'm just envisioning, and again, I want this to be successful, I'm just envisioning potentially between Cardigan and Untold Brewing, and then people walking up from the T up this way, and they will be going the other way as well if some of the merchants down there participate. It's a great problem to have, but I'm just Countryway at that point, plus that coming down off the bridge up there,
Yeah.
it's just dangerous.
Lorraine, if you could talk to Taylor and, you know, they haven't told us, so maybe they've already.
Who's running the event? With Chamber?
No, it's sort of like an emerging, it's all the individual merchants have sort of just got together and said, hey, let's do this.
There is one chairperson, it's the
Yes.
ones that are the business, the Birch
Farm?
yes,
Oh,
they're the ones kind of in charge.
all right, well, why don't we, I have no problem with the licenses, I don't think anyone does. But if Lorraine talks to the police, just make sure it's safe.
Probably other people have that concern as well, so that would be good.
So let's do this motion first for the,
Move to grant an outdoor entertainment permit to Cardigan Nursing and Rehabilitation Center at 59 Country Way for May 6, 2023, for a live band from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Second.
second by Mr. Goodrich. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye, it's unanimous. And now why don't we do the second one?
Move to grant an outdoor entertainment permit for the live amplified band Untold Brewing of 6 Old Country Way on Saturday, May 6, 2023, from 1 p.m. to 5.
Now, do you want to make this contingent upon police review or something like that, or are you good?
No, because we didn't make the Cardigan Center. I think we just have to separately ask Lorraine to get back to us on this
Okay.
review for the
Everyone good with
organizers.
I'm sorry, who was the second on the untold brewing? I know Andrew made the motion.
Second.
Ms. Camp,
Thank you.
further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it is unanimous, 5-0. Thank you for coming in,
Thank you.
and that's just.
Have fun.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions on that? So you'll talk to Taylor and send an email or something?
Yeah. And I'll connect them with the Greenbush group.
Birch.
Yeah, Birch Design, Shelly, yes.
Awesome. Next item is a discussion of vote special event for the Knights of Columbus.
Good evening.
How are you?
It does seem like only yesterday we were here.
Yes.
Carl Moore, Deputy Grand Knight for the Scituate Council of Knights of Columbus. Michael James, William Norrie. Thank you for having us here tonight. We've applied once again for our annual carnival this year. The dates are July 18th through the 22nd, with a setup on Monday, July the 17th on Cole Parkway. And it's been a tradition now for over 66 years. We keep on going. And it's our major fundraiser for the year for us giving back to the community every year. Without it, we would cease to exist. And we've been really happy and active this year in raising money for charities. We've helped out the victims recently of the fires. We've been making donations every year to our scholarship fund for the kids. We've had a record year of applications this year that we're excited about. 41. Over 41 applications. We're very excited about it. So word's getting out of what we can do for the community, and so we're stepping up and growing. So we're back this year and ask for permission for the annual carnival.
Any questions?
I have to say, for 30 years, I've so looked forward to this. This is the first year you're not doing it on my birthday, so.
Well, that was a combination from the availability of Fiesta shows and the high tide cycle, which is always a challenge. And so when the full moon is out and the tide is very full, we sometimes shift it back and forth 2 weeks.
Yeah, can you do fireworks on my birthday?
Sure.
Yeah, you guys do a great job, it's great tradition, thank you.
Karen, any questions? Andy, good.
Okay, I'm just curious, how much do you raise in this event annually, and are you seeing it increase, or what's your participation look like over the past couple of years?
Yeah, so as a 501c charity, we don't divulge our finances to the company, but we have seen some increases. The year post-COVID year, there was pent-up demand and the attendance was great. So it is gross. Some years have been a struggle, and you never know. Last year was not as good as the previous year. You never know what's going to. It's a combination of factors too, the weather.
Yeah.
If we get a rainy week, then the attendance is low. So we crossed our fingers. We're always looking to do things to make improvements to kind of raise more money. But there's certainly everything we raise, we give back.
Yeah. Thank you. Wish you good luck.
Thank you.
Couple technical questions. So safety of the rides and everything is a big thing. I'm sure you're going through all the steps, but anything you can do to add extra precaution to that would be great.
Absolutely, we follow the procedures for flame shows, which is Fiesta, which is Marshfield Fair, the same unit that travels around. They go through the regulatory state inspections the day of. We're required to call the state and everything. This year, we're looking at spreading out the midway a little bit better, to have a little bit better foot traffic, a little less crowding. There'll be less people closer to the rides, so we're looking at those things all the time for the safety of our patrons.
Right. And where are you storing the trucks and stuff that they bring the equipment in? Usually it's by the
Marshfield Fair.
Marshfield Fair.
They go down to Marshfield Fairgrounds.
Yeah,
They used to be, they go down because they go right down to Marshfield Fairgrounds.
Okay, very convenient for them. Since they've been highly involved with the Marshfield Fair, they have all the ability to park things. They can have some extra rides to see what fits into the pieces of the puzzle and swap them out. They actually have dorms and barracks out there, so the workers have a nice warm place to stay. And it solves a lot of problems that we had previous years.
Awesome, and I can't say enough for the Knights of Columbus, all the charity work you do in this town. Anytime anybody comes to you with any need, you always are there to give and help, no matter how big or small the service. So great job you guys do for servicing the community.
That's what we're here to do.
I have one question.
Yes.
If you would. I assume you saw the note from the harbor master and making sure that his spaces are clear, so folks, okay, just want to make sure.
Yep, we're making it very clear that road and the parkway and all the parking spaces along the harbor from the gazebo out, as well as the two.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
as well as the two designated now for police, there's 2 parking spaces with blue outlines, so we make sure those are available too.
Thank you.
That would be a very bad place to park, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Any questions? Any, can I have a motion?
Move to approve a special event permit to the Scituate Knights of Columbus for the annual carnival, July 18th through July 22nd, 2023. Setup will begin July 17th and takedown will take place on July 27th.
Okay. Second by Ms. Canfield, further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous, 5-0. Thank you guys.
Thank you very much, Council. Appreciate it.
Have a great week.
Thank you.
We all remember bringing. Well,
I actually, Christopher loved to meet the carnival people at breakfast the next day. Down in the harbor, so we go, afraid they're going to run and join the carnival.
all right, next topic is a discussion vote on the John P. Connors Memorial Project. Mr. Kelly, how are you? Thank you for coming in from the Veteran Service Advisory Council. And then we had a meeting last week or the week before.
The 12th.
Out of town. I know that some people here were there, and if we can get some feedback on that and see where we're going.
Well, Justin was good enough to film it, and I viewed the film and it was fantastic. I believe the people that were there accepted what we were talking about. We had a few questions, those questions got answered. And during the conversation, there was applause several times. So that tells me that people were accepting what was being proposed.
Well, I don't think we can overlook the fact that there is some group out there that is concerned about the size and the emails and stuff that we received in terms of the location of it and the the size and of the event. So I'm glad that you had that meeting and kind of had an opportunity for people to air their concerns about it.
They had an opportunity to air those concerns and nobody really did.
Yeah, we brought it up during the discussions of, as we went through the project itself.
Sure.
We wanted to make it, not just certainly a tribute to Mr. Connor, but also to encompass the community and the park and the whole veteran larger feel to it. So I don't know if have there been any, or if there hasn't been any changes to the project based on any comments. It's still the last one that we saw, right, in terms of location, structure, the look and all that. Right. Anyone, were you at the meeting?
I was.
Do you want to give?
And Laura was there as well.
Okay. Do you guys want to give any feedback that you guys had from the meeting?
Sure. I agree with Mr. Kelly. I think there were advocates and opponents in the meeting. Everybody had ample opportunity to ask those questions, and I think they were asked. What was helpful for me that they did differently was they put a visual of a 14-foot ladder in the middle of the map, which gave me a much better perspective, as I had expressed to them as well. And I was concerned about the size, but seeing it depicted in that 14-foot ladder helped me quite a bit. It's just not as large as, 14 feet is not as large as I think it is. I'm short, so it seems extra to me. And I think they've been very thoughtful. I think they answered a lot of the questions with regards to Olmsted and the history of that park. With it being a memorial park, and I know many of you have also gone out and got information. So the meeting was good and it's very open, Mr. Kelly, and was it Bob, is that his name, the gentleman who did the other
Bob
planning?
McLean.
Yeah, Bob McLean stood up and did a presentation, which was very good. So I think they've done their due diligence. I do have one question for them, unless you want to get Karen's
Well, I did want to just,
perception, and then I can ask.
yeah, and then
afterwards.
after you, I'd like to go
Yeah.
to Ms. Canfield.
Yeah, I want to say I appreciate the fact that you came out again. I know you've done this a few times, so I appreciate that. I had a slightly different perspective, and that was, I do think it was a little intimidating for some people in the audience. I think they tried to ask questions and I think you tried to answer them, but after the meeting was over, a few people approached me and were very upset. And all I will say is that these types of projects never go 100% anyone's way. And so my hope is that we can keep the dialogue going with the donors, with your Veterans Advisory Committee, and with the rest of the town. And I have one particular suggestion, and that is I would like to see there be an exhibit at the library about not just the Commerce Project, but also about Lawson Common generally speaking. We don't have a real local newspaper here anymore, so it's very hard to get information out to people. And I would like to think that if between the architect, the sculptor, and the Historical Society and the Commission could come together to create some sort of an exhibit about Lawson Common, about the statue, and about public art and public memorials in general. I think you have the opportunity to educate the public about this, because as I said, these types of projects don't come without controversy. And we are giving a piece of public property to a private group at this point. So I think it was very respectful, and I hope we can all keep that same tone. But we have received quite a few letters of people with concerns about it. So I appreciate from your viewpoint, if I was coming out of that meeting, I would feel like it went really well. But after the fact, I got pushback from some people and not, and again, they're very respectful, and it's a very delicate topic, because I have never talked to anyone who has been anything but in support of honoring John Connors. The devil is in the details, as they say. So that's the perspective I had from going to that meeting.
And we did get another letter today about another citizen that was, didn't like the project going there as well, so we do get spatterings of that. Of course, you always hear the negative and you don't always hear the positive.
Well, the thing is the people that do respond to the negative don't know the whole story.
Sure, I think that was Karen's point.
Right.
I do want to turn it over to Karen Canfield for 1 second. She did a little historical stuff and a little due diligence on this map and this kind of sheet here. Karen, if you want to go through it and tell us what you.
So we were all a little surprised, happily surprised, when we had the presentation with the sculptor, and we discovered from, I believe it was beautification, said, this is a lot, and we all, or an Olmsted, and we all were like, okay, we actually didn't even realize that. So it's created quite an opportunity, and so I was very curious about the history, and our historic commission and society has done a very thoughtful analysis of, what happened, how was this park created, and walked us through it. So I went down and I went through to say, okay, from the time this park was created to today, what has happened and what has existed in the site? And from my walk around this, I'm not an architect, this is my informal opinion. There are 8 other memorials that have been placed on the site after the 1917 placement in the Civil War that honor pretty much every war. So the precedent is definitely being set, and it reinforces that this was originally designed and it was called the Memorial Park. It got changed to Lawson, and sometimes Lawson Memorial Park, because Mr. Lawson paid for the improvements. He hired the Olmsted brothers, and they created the original design. little fun fact, the original design had those paths, and they weren't created because according to the Olmsted network, it was too remote a location, and so they didn't include that. So the original design is a little different, and of course, we lost most of the elms that were planted, because everybody lost all the elms. So, the reason I wanted to do this homework was because it is an important site. We wanted to really listen to the folks that are concerned that this memorial isn't appropriate for this location and to look into that. I personally have come to the conclusion that not only is it appropriate, it will bring really important attention to the site itself because of the value that this memorial will bring to the site, if that makes sense. That's my personal opinion of that. There are individuals on some of these memorials, not all of them, most of them are, veterans of Korean, veterans of Vietnam. But even on the Civil War monument, there are 2 individuals called out in the honor, having received medals of honor. So I think those are I think Ms. Connolly is right, that there's a real opportunity to use this proposal to accomplish a whole lot of goals outside of the memorial. Educating folks, maybe restoring the park to the glory that it was originally designed for, all separate obviously from your project. But it's a real catalyst, potentially a real catalyst. So that was sort of my homework on that, and I have been in touch with it's now called the Olmsted Network. It used to be the National Association of Olmsted Parks or something, they recently changed their name. And they're providing some feedback. I think it's important for this board to continue that dialogue and make sure that any final plans were in concert with somebody that really understands the history of this site. I think those things can happen at the same time. The one question I had, and it may be more, I don't know if we're even there yet, but at some point, I assume we're going to enter into agreement with the proponents about the use of the site, what your responsibilities are, who's gonna protect it, liability, all those details. Jen, have you thought about that at all? Or if we improve this location, what happens?
So they'll have to be in agreement with the components, access, restoration, damage, insurance. It'd be a standard contract that we have with most of our contractors. So it would be anything outrageous.
And ongoing maintenance, have we talked about that? I think we did, I just forget the details.
Yes, that'll actually be in perpetuity.
I remember that now. Any questions about this?
I think it's great, thank you for doing it. Like you said, I don't think we all knew the detailed history of that park when we first started the discussions. So, Ms. Curran.
I just wanted to take the next step, what Ms. Campbell just said with Jim. I'd like to make sure that we have some sort of oversight committee that's not just the veterans advisory group, that possibly is, veterans, maybe historical commission, a member from this board, so that there is constant oversight, because we all know, and this isn't anything about any of you, but we know projects in this town often can turn out differently than what they are originally presented to us, and I think this is too important and too sensitive of an area, just to not have like a joint type of small oversight committee during the planning and construction process with the group.
Any comments on that?
I can probably answer.
1 second, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, we definitely need to have the town's interest oversee. We wouldn't do any construction project without an owner's OPM, yeah. In this case, we will have a contract, we'll have Jim's oversight. I think that the biggest, and I know that Jim is capable of overseeing the contract, obviously. The things that construction-wise concerns me are more about the site itself. Is it a landscape architect we need? Is it you know, somebody with a specific skill that will preserve the integrity of this park, because that's what I'm hearing is the biggest concern. I think you're right about on the education piece, we don't want to miss those opportunities. It's not this group's responsibility to do exhibits and school projects. I think, you know, there could be real legs on the education piece. I'd love to see that group put together to do all of the you know, supporting things that would really educate the community before, during, and after. I think that actually.
I think we're talking about two.
They're two separate things, and I think that the piece you're talking about, I would see value in including, you know, maybe the Olmsted Network as an advisor, or, you know, the landscape architect specifically that's used to this kind of project, as our advisor to Jeff. That's just sort of what I'm thinking on that.
I think, if I'm hearing you correctly, and this is kind of my concern, and I think all of our concerns for the water treatment plant, right? We told people it's gonna look like something, we wanna make sure that it looks like that when it's done. I think this project is much more, you know, visual and easier to look at. Yeah, so I think it's two different things. I guess my concern is, tonight we're gonna vote the project up or down. So the educational component is great, but it's really aftermath, right? This, we really probably should have done it before, so that people could have come to the meetings all for the last 6 months educated in terms of what it was and what it wasn't. I still think we should do it, but I think we probably would have gotten other feedback had we done that prior, but that should be said. So I think what we should probably discuss tonight, and we'll open it up to you guys as well and anybody else that cares for it, but there's specific concerns that people have that we've gotten letters about that we need to decide whether we want to ask this project to make changes to what we've seen or not in approving. I think that's, because tonight's the night we're gonna approve it, and when we approve it, we're approving the plan that we've seen. So if anybody has any concerns with the plan that we've seen, which is a 14-foot structure of a soldier on a pedestal, whatever you call it. Yeah, you know, and I think that's most of the concerns that we've had. I think we've kind of taken care of what the park is there for. Right, it's a memorial park. There's, what do you have, 10 different memorials on the park. I think it's the right place for this structure. I guess the question now is, how do we deal with all the other letters we've gotten and feedback that people have gotten in terms of the actual statute? And I think that if we're gonna vote this tonight to pass, do we wanna say include a garden, include this, make it 13 feet, you know, any sort of that stuff before it actually gets built? Otherwise, we're saying yes, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I think the idea of hiring an independent landscape architect, that we could get some unbiased professional information, because I agree, and I think that a lot of the concerns relate to the size, the placement, the orientation, et cetera. So I feel like if, I'd like to propose that we add to the motion tonight that the donors would fund an independent landscape architect to advise the town, whether it's the committee that Maura's suggesting maybe, or whether it's the town administrator, and that we let that person, whoever it is, look at the whole park, look at what it looks like now, do some history work, and help us make an informed decision, because I think if we start picking it apart tonight, I'd be concerned we'll never get out of here. You know, the problem I had with the latter was that it in no way reflected the mass of the sculpture. And rather than us trying to figure that out tonight, I would rather that we approve the project, and with the stipulation that the town administrator create a memo of understanding with the donors that outlines timelines and everyone's obligations, and that we hire the landscape architect through the donors, and that they would report to the town, so that we're getting an independent opinion, and they can come and say, well, it's based on, they can do wonderful things, as we all say in the olden days with computers, right?
Sure.
So we could actually, a landscape architect could probably do some renderings that would show us if it's this mass, if it's this size, this is what it would look like. So you have to go through the chair here, so I'm just telling you what my opinion is.
Okay. Let me say this, we're gonna talk about it for a couple minutes, and then I'm gonna open up and you guys can say whatever you want, and everyone will have a chance to speak.
Before you talk about it, can I just say one more thing?
Yes.
First of all, you charged the Veterans Advisory Council with doing and bringing it to this point, okay? I just want to share one more position that the Veterans Advisory Council has. I need to read it, okay? The U.S. government considers the modern era for war as beginning with the Panama invasion of 1989. That period includes Panama, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Bosnia, Kosovo, Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria. 7 separate and distinct conflicts that combine about 36 years. A well-considered, now we talk about the monument, a well-considered and beautiful monument dedicated to Scituate servicemen and women and their families who have sacrificed with poise and stoic dignity so greatly for the country and for those 7 modern conflicts. Would only be properly placed alongside the monuments to the sacrifices of those who came before. Scituate has specifically dedicated a sacred place to honor their collective sacrifices. And it was named the Lawson Memorial Common. So that would be the place to put it.
But are you suggesting that this monument would be a dedication to those 7 conflicts?
Yeah.
With Mr.
Because you got the Civil War monument, and you got, Korean wars there, you got Vietnam, all that sort of a thing. Well, this is gonna be encompassing about 36 years.
Will it say that, Mr. Kelly? Will it have a plaque on it to say that as well?
No.
So I think that's the challenge.
No, it says it by itself. The actual memorial will say that. That's a modern soldier.
You get that, but the general public probably doesn't understand that. That's all I would say. I think if the intent is to honor some of the wishes that we're hearing, right? That it's encompassing of more than just one soldier, which I don't necessarily agree with. I'm just telling you what we're hearing.
But it's not
That
gonna.
could be a potential way in which to answer that concern, is to incorporate some sort of language in addition to honoring John Connors, to explaining it also honors those of modern wars. Because I've never heard that term. I'm sorry for my ignorance, but I've never heard that term when referencing all those wars. And I've had several family members in one of those wars, so. And I'm
Afghanistan was called Enduring Freedom. Can you imagine that? Enduring Freedom was actually called. And it did free women in Afghanistan. Women are now being educated because we were there. My son lost his life there for that.
I think you bring up a very good point that some of the letters that we've gotten were addressing. I know there's people that want to say things. Do you want to open it up there? Or does someone else have other comments before we do that?
So I took my 7-year-old down there today, I walked and went through every memorial, and the first question to me was, what do you want out of a statue or a memorial? And what do you want out of a place like this? And it was clear that any and all of these memorials are part of a bigger story. So we went through, and here are the questions that he had after. War, so there's no other wars after Vietnam. No, okay, so no other Desert Storm. Oh, so that was the last one. No, and so then, so after going through everything, we had to talk about war and everything. So there was a gap, clearly. But it was those conversations and having, having a figure, a person who was meaningful for a child, is okay, there, what does that mean? And then we talked about Abigail, we drove by that house, so there every day, didn't know, talked about the story, greater story. So kind of like after being there more and with different intent, a few things. One, make sure we maintain some of the other memorials that are there already. But being part of the larger story is so meaningful and so critical to being part of that. And what you were saying earlier is that incorporating elements that this can be a symbol for those larger pieces. I know we could get there, and I know that's a concern that it's not just for one person.
Right.
And I know public art itself is just it's doesn't matter what it is. You can be in Boston and put up a Martin Luther King statue, and people are going to be upset. So the intent is always hard, but I know we can get there. But I do think I'm with you that these are valid concerns that people have. But I think at the end of the day, we'll be able to usher through and really make sure that we don't have any of those gaps.
Thanks. So maybe I'll go to the proponents of the project first, and I'll ask you the question. Do you have a problem with making it a memorial for that time period of conflicts, memorializing John Connors as a participant in that?
That was hi, Joe Mitchell, I'm the treasurer for the John Connors Memorial Project. And that was, that's been our concept, our design the whole time. And Chaz Fagan, our sculptor, described it quite eloquently 2 weeks ago. I know some of the select board was there, and thank you for attending. Others, I mean, it is on tape, Seth did tape it. And as far as a landscape architect, we do have one on the team, and we can certainly, and it'd be difficult to make him an independent landscape architect that we hire, that might create a conflict. But certainly to report back to Jim and the town, I could definitely see it as making sure that the impact on the park is minimal, which it is in the center of the park, it is pretty minimal. To make sure the impact is minimal and make sure we're keeping with the homestead design. As far as critiquing as far as size and orientation, Chaz Fagan is a world-renowned sculptor, and what he has done, I think, is quite remarkable. That's just my opinion. If we start saying, "Hey, Chaz, that's beautiful, but could you do this and make him stand this way?" Like that's not what this project is about. Yeah. And to Mr. Kelly's point is, we've been here a number of times, and you've been very patient with us, and we certainly do appreciate it. At some point, though, we do have to, fish or cut bait, to use a seaside.
And I think tonight is that night, and I think, and I hope I didn't give that impression like, no, make the soldier stand this way. I think that's some of the feedback that we're getting. But, I looked at, when I read the stuff that Karen did, there's a Vietnam War memorial in honor of Mr. Dolan. Now, if this was a memorial to and again, I'm sorry, just trying to remember the name for all the conflicts, but a memorial for the conflict from this year to this year, in honor of Mr. Connors, I think that would have a different perspective without changing the look or feel of the thing. And Andrew, you brought it to me, I think a 7-year-old kid would be in awe of seeing this statue that you have designed, and it would start conversations and really be very
And Chaz Fagan, the statue is named, I'm gonna say it wrong. Ali's, which means others, but it's in 3 different contexts: for others, to help me out somebody, to others. So it really is all encompassing, and to Mr. Kelly's point.
So I'll try and be more specific. On the wording on the stone at some point, one says Vietnam Memorial can this one say, well, I'll get you in 1 second, can this one say memorial to 70?
Modern conflicts?
Yes, whatever, modern conflicts, if that's what it is. Is that part of what you're thinking? Is that part of what we're thinking? We don't want it to be just one person, we want it to be one great person where people can go and celebrate or whatever you're going to do for many people that may have sacrificed in that time period.
I think it's a great question, and it's come up several times, and it came up during the presentation, so during the public outreach meeting. And what we explained to people, and what Chaz is much more eloquent than we are, the sculptor. So Ali East is 2 others, 4 others, by others. The statue is meant to encompass all veterans from all wars, not those that have just been killed, but for anybody that's served. So we don't have a plaque on it that says John Connors. We don't have a plaque on it that says Operation Just Cause in Panama. We don't have any of that there. It's for all veterans of all wars, whether they were killed in action or not. And John Connors' best friend in high school and college and growing up said during the meeting, someone said specifically, are you gonna have, one of the questions during the public outreach meeting was, are you gonna have John Connors' name on there? And Joe Mitchell said, well, we haven't figured that out yet. We haven't even talked about that. Right now, we're just seeing if the town is gonna approve the statue to be in the Veterans Memorial Park. Well, John Sheehan very eloquently said, John Connors and he were best friends, and John was very humble. And John said that it's not something that John would have wanted, John Connors. He didn't want attention. You can say it better than I can.
I would say he represents, as an individual, everyone, he was part of the SEAL team, they call themselves the Brethren, it's the brotherhood. And I think the last thing we want is to aggrandize himself at the expense of any other veteran. I think we build statues to people. Chaz makes this point a lot, like Rosa Parks, Neil Armstrong, and Ronald Reagan. When we build these statues, we build them to people because that's inspiration, right? If there's ever been a statue of General Grant, I think every member of the Union Army feels reflected in that statue. It's not like, oh, even though, in my opinion, he was a great president, more than anyone except Lincoln to emancipate 4 million enslaved Americans. I think this could serve the same purpose, right? Reflecting the sacrifice of all veterans and all people that have worn the uniform. And whatever you would say you want said on there, I would say that would be, we can discuss that down the road, as you see it feels appropriate. But at least, 4 others, 2 others, with others, would be what would be carved into the statue. I think that's Chaz's thoughts.
Okay.
So for even more clarity on this, and I'm always fascinated about what's also around the statue, and I want to be clear, again, back, what my son was looking at too were the flags in front, and or things that are not necessarily inscribed, and for us to say exactly what's going to be inscribed, but so here's my question, because you sometimes put out in front of the firefighter memorial, there's a fire flag and other flags or a wreath. And if there were flags for modern wars, we're talking about what we're talking about, no one would have opposition. Is that right? Is that clear? That if we had an event that was there talking about that, if we as a town had a little plaque explaining, not inscribed in there, but in front of it, hey, this is the purpose for all, that's the intent. Is that right? So I know we're talking about one word and exactly what's written in stone.
Sure.
But there'd be no, I'm just trying to get clarity here, there's no opposition that if we talked about some other event or something that happened and using that as a symbol for Afghanistan or some other, right, to have an event. Is that right? I'm just trying to show that this is meant to be.
Yeah, right, yeah, so to answer your question, absolutely. We've always said from the very beginning that this isn't us coming here and saying, we want to do A, B, and see. From the very beginning, it's always been, we want to work with the town, we want to make sure that this is a conversation that we're having together, that everybody's happy. And one of the comments that I wanted to make when you guys were chatting about landscape architects, we have a landscape architect on staff. One of our committee members is an engineer with over 30 years of experience. You don't know this, but I have 37 years of construction experience. And one of my specialties is historic restorations. So I actually know all about Homestead, and I'm approved for historic restoration projects with the state, with many citizen towns. In Boston, I've worked on the Boston Public Garden, the Boston Common, the State House, King's Chapel Burial Ground. Name any historic site in Boston, I've worked on it. So none of you know that. So my specialty is historic restoration. So I've studied a lot of homestead projects, and I've worked on the Emerald Necklace Park in Boston, which is one of the very famous projects. So just so that you know, because you don't know who the heck we are, that's historic restoration is my specialty. And then you had asked about landscaping around it. Well, so one of the things that we noticed on the project, and Chaz talked about in the presentation, is that the common, the way it was designed by Homestead, wasn't supposed to have a lot of shrubs. It's supposed to be open and it's supposed to have grass. So the newer memorials, where there's a plaque on a stone, there's shrubs around it. So what Bob McLean explained during the presentation is that what Bob explained during the presentation is that the way that there are shrubs and everything around the memorials is not the way Homestead designed it. Instead, it's supposed to be open with grass. So one of the things that we proposed and we talked about in the public hearing is that the statue, the memorial, will be on grass and no shrubs around it, nothing else. Just in the middle of the grass, so that you can see it from the distance and admire it. So, that's everything that I wanted to mention.
You'll have a chance to talk again.
Yeah.
Would you mind just marking on this, I know from your presentation.
Where we go?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. I think the one thing that is also,
right there,
kind of defining the project, which, as I hear you talk more about it, is probably not correct, is, we keep mentioning it's the John P. Connors Memorial location, and although it is, it's not, the intention is broader than that, and I think that's what Andrew and some other people are trying to get. Somehow we want to make that understandable, right? That this isn't just the John P. Connors Memorial. It is either to an era or greater than that. So I am gonna get you, but she raised her hand first.
Jody McDonough, 45 College Street. I attended the session that the veterans had, and I have 3 comments. One is, I'm still not convinced that it's not just representing one person. My father was a World War II veteran on the USS San Diego. All my family has been out to San Diego to see that memorial. My daughter, who never met my father, got to put her hands and see the environment, put her hands on his name and see the whole environment and see how many people were involved in that particular boat. It was very effective to her. She learned a lot, and it brought a whole sense of what that particular ship did. And I don't think anyone here hasn't been to the Vietnam Memorial and been affected by the fact that it's the whole collective experience of being there. So I don't think that this is representing a lot. I think it's representing one person. It's one person's name. A Measure of a Man is the name of the website. So I really do doubt the effectiveness of this. The second thing I have to say is that it's a very beautiful statue, but it probably should be on an army base or a base. Does it belong an oversized person gun on our commons. If you took that person who was on that and had them walk down the commons, you would have all sorts of action happen. So does it really belong, and we have so much gun violence in our society, does it really belong there? And I'm sorry that upsets you, but it's a fact that we have gun violence in our country, and this is memorial, it's making it larger than life, right? So, but and the last thing I have to say is that the last time we had a discussion about a memorial for one person was in 2005. And there was a lot of controversy about that at that time, and I don't know, but what happened was in that discussion, they asked that a Lawson policy be put in place for the, that George Story, who was in charge of buildings and grounds, be contacted to draft a policy for the size, height, location of memorials. So that we just don't have some multimillionaire coming in and saying, well, and I have copies of.
We have it.
We have it.
In the, so she's referring to the minutes of a select board meeting on May 24th, 2005.
And was that ever done? Do you know that? Do we have a copy of that?
I know that Lorraine asked the DPW department to seek that out. It is not in our policy book. It is not, we have not been able to unearth any information about that actually being drafted and implemented.
Yeah, Mr. Caffey has it, but we haven't received a response.
You can patient there, so.
Yes, sir, sorry, I've been kind of jumping out of my seat because I think responses for all this. I'm Bob McLean, 155 Chief Justice. And also on the Veterans Advisory Council or Committee. So just a couple things about the lettering on the statute or naming of the statute. The only lettering on the statute, as far as I know, as far as planned, is the Latin word aliis. And this is something that the Veterans Advisory Committee wrestled with, like when we were first tasked with taking a look at this project, is the question if it's going to be put on town land, on public land. We didn't feel that it would be appropriate to have a statute that was only for one veteran. So after going back and forth about this, we believe that the statute, although it is a definite representation of John Connors, that the statute itself is sufficiently anonymized as far as to exactly who it is, that it would be appropriate to be put on public land. However, and we haven't gotten to this because it's kind of like just one step at a time. The idea of the dedication to the people who have served in modern conflicts, we'd like to do that, and we're talking about doing that as and I don't even know how, but not on the statue, not on the piece of public art itself, but have a smaller plaque, offset from it, a foot or two or something at the roadway, that's not on the common, kind of like cross that bridge when and if we come to it. But explaining both who the statue is dedicated for, so the people who served in the modern era of conflicts. There are a lot of different names out there for that. It's either GWAT or post 9/11, but it also includes pre 9/11. But it is actually in a real administrative time period for the U.S. government for how they grew warfare, and it started at Just Cause, which is Panama, and it goes through the current day. So it is the modern era of conflicts. It's just the easiest way to call it right now. But not on the public piece of art have that completely sterile from any lettering except for the name of the statue itself, the aliis, but the separate explainer, plaque, or whatever you want to call it, explains the purpose, who it's dedicated to, and also who it is a representation of, and why we felt that the person served as a good representative for the piece of art. And I think from the town's perspective, as far as like the group and, you know, the project being called the John P. Connors Statue Project, well, it is their group, they do have to give it a name. And having worked with them extensively, I think that both they and the Veterans Advisory Committee are on the same page, that yes, it is definitely a representation of one person, but it's anonymized enough to be a good representative for the larger group itself. And every statue has a model that the sculptor uses, you know, behind everything from, you know, statues of the Virgin Mary to David to everybody. And unless they're specifically made from, you know, a photograph or that model standing in, a statue will be modeled after a real human being, who then might be representative of something else. So that's that.
Thank you, Bob. Any, sir?
Dave Fontaine, 50 Minnow Drive. I saw the statue for the first time at a meeting a couple weeks ago, and that summed up my whole life. I spent 20 years in the Army. I was an infantry soldier. That was my uniform I wore. I sacrificed. I lost friends. And that's so emotional that day when I saw that statue. And I think that's what's going to bring. I'd be proud of my grandchildren there to see, show this is what we did, this is what we wore, this is what we were all about.
Thank you for your service. Is there anyone else here before you, anyone else here just from the public have a comment? I think we're very close. I think, and I don't want to speak for the board, but I think we're all saying somewhat the same thing, even, you know, Jody's comments about the concern that is for one person and you clarifying that it's not for one person, and Andrew saying, well, how do we show that separately from the statue? And I probably got off base where I said carve it in the stone, right? And then Bob said the same thing, that was the intention of the Veteran Advisory Committee. So I think we're all kind of going in the right direction. We just needed kind of clarity and saying it out loud. So where does the board want to go from here? Karen had the idea of getting an independent consultant. I don't know how that would work, but then they have one on their committee. At this point, I'll give my 2 cents. I think it's the right place for it. I think it's the right. I don't have a problem with the structure itself, the statue and the art. I think as long as we get some sort of plan to make sure that there's some sort of definition to the broader meaning behind it, that does not have to be part of the artwork itself, then I think I'm fine with moving forward. Karen, you?
Just one question, given we did not know about the expertise on their committee, and we know how hard you guys have worked, and the fact that a world-renowned sculptor is being on our property, does that change the board's comfort level as far as the recommended location of this, as far as, I mean, it is our job to make sure that our public property is used appropriately. Did not know about the expertise in that area. I felt really comfortable with the sculptor's presentation of the artistic location. But does that change your level of comfort?
Sorry.
Knowing that they have landscape architects and a historic preservationist on their committee.
Yeah, and I mean, I knew that from the last meeting, they went through that, so sorry, probably should share that, but, well, I understand kind of, Karen Connolly, where you're going. I don't know how we ask the proponents to pay for something that's gonna be unbiased, because they're paid for it, and that landscaper is going to understand where that paycheck is coming from. So if there's already that perspective on the committee, I mean, I'm comfortable with that, I think. And I'm not suggesting that, because I know what I'm saying, that I'm not gonna say it, because you think that I'm saying something else. I have confidence in them. I feel like they've answered my concerns about the size and stature of it. Am I to the extent that I can be. I mean, it's a different piece of art for us, you know, and it's a new era, and we're a different board. It's not 2005, it's not 1927. You know, everybody has had to grapple with change over the years in what our servicemen do and look like. So, yeah, it's different. A little nervous, but I think it's appropriate. So that's where I stand right now. I don't think we need an extra landscaper. I would at some point wanna make sure that it's not just the advisory, the Veterans Advisory Commission that is only looking at the plans as you go along the way. I just wanna have some other folks represented in that group as well. So we haven't appointed tonight or anything, but I would like to make sure that there's some additional eyes. Yeah, that's all.
I mean, I'm certainly, I'm comfortable with the location. I think two of the concerns, Karen, I think you're dead on right. When we talk about the location for possibly over by the Veterans Gym, we need to do a better job making that more appropriate. I totally agree, and I think we need to do a better job. So I don't want to lose momentum on some of this stuff sometimes, but I don't want to lose that momentum. I also think having a landscape architect, not just for this project, for other parks, is a fabulous idea to have maybe just some review for what we do, because we don't have a park and recs. There's no department technically just looking at it that way. I think that's a really good idea, and I think we should do that. But no, I mean, the clarity of understanding where we are, I'm comfortable with, but I also don't want to lose those elements to make sure those gaps, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? So I don't know if we can certainly make anyone pay, but I do want to do it. Okay. All right, I want to pay.
Any other?
Yes, first of all, I'm very sure that Mr. Fagan has, as a sculptor of renown that he is, has had to deal with the public many, probably countless times. And I'm sure he's used to receiving feedback and listening to what the public says about public art, while not betraying his own sense of what is right, what is, artistically pleasing, etc. But I will continue to maintain that I would prefer that the donors pay for the town to hire a landscape architect to work on behalf of the town for this Lawson Common, because my feeling is we wouldn't be trying to hire a landscape architect were it not for this project. So I would like to think that it would be helpful to the town and to the townspeople to feel as though that we've had an independent, even if it's paid for you, but an independent landscape architect or architect firm work directly for the town on just this project. Because it's not just about going in there and plotting, you know this, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know. This is not just you go in, you put the statue in, and then you leave. I greatly appreciate the expertise and the skill of this particular committee. I also recognize the fact that you're probably, you won't want to admit it maybe, but you're probably a little stuck in terms of donations at this point. Because if I were a donor, I'd be saying, great, where are you gonna put it? And if you can't give them a location, if you can't tell them, I've done a lot of fundraising in the past and I understand it. So I am not in any way trying to be obstructionist about this, but I do think that this board owes it to our public that and I don't think if we hire a landscape architect using a donation from your committee, that it would look to anyone like we're not controlling that. So I think it would be a better thing. I am looking forward to a celebration, and I think it's gonna take you longer than your timetable tells you, but a celebration that the whole town can embrace in a year or two or whatever, and that any lingering questions have been answered, and that this board has done its due diligence to make sure that town property is being managed properly. So I would strongly advocate that you agree to make that donation.
Well, let's see if the board wants to do that.
Well, I'm advocating my position.
Why not? Yeah, I think we get it.
All right.
To answer your question, yes, we said we would, absolutely, we have no problem with it. It's very reasonable request. It's not, we have no issue with it.
Thank you.
Karen, did you have any last?
No, that was,
Okay.
got my question.
All right, so it's my sense that the motion today is to pass the project. So do we all feel comfortable taking that steps with the conversation we had? And then the next part would be to Karen's point, do we want to add the addition of putting an independent landscape architect?
I think that could be part of the memo of understanding that you, or the contract that you will draw, just one of the terms.
Yeah, I just have to have a little more discussion with the board, exactly what you want that landscape architect to do, aside from, it's gonna review whatever their plans are.
I mean, I think what they're going to do, I don't know what this person is going to do in terms of, I mean, it's a relatively small project. They're gonna come back with a picture of exactly what it's gonna look like to us before it gets built from their architect. I mean, I don't know that, it's not like you're building a water treatment plant where you need someone there to see if they're doing it. They're gonna come with a sketch of it, with a picture of it, of exactly what it's gonna look like from 20 different angles, and we're gonna say yes or no to it.
Actually, it's gonna be a lot more than that. You'll have architectural drawings, engineer drawings, stamped by an architect, an engineer, and a landscape architect. So everyone will be registered. So again, I've been working with cities and towns for 37 years. So even though you don't know us, we'll be working with Jim, we'll be working with the engineering department, the building department. All the drawings will have to be signed off by the town. So that's not a problem. And just so you know, the footprint is only a 10-foot diameter circle, that's it. But we'll review everything for where there are electrical and plumbing and everything there. It'll all be shown on the drawing, so there'll be no surprises.
My point is, I don't know what our architect is going to do, because they're gonna design it and they're gonna come and show us what it is. Now, so is our architect gonna say, no, twisted three?
No,
Just for may I remind the board that we have several landscape architects on many of our committees within town that we could potentially have as independent folks on this oversight committee. We've got many landscape architects, good ones, that I don't necessarily think we have to go out and hire an independent group and spend money on that. Because if we're just looking for a position to protect the town's interest, to review what they're doing, I just think we should pursue that avenue first. I'm not gonna say their names because I don't wanna commit them to something that they're not willing to do, but there are several on many of our committees today.
I was envisioning more of a landscape architect, and I think it's a heavy lift to ask someone as a volunteer to do something. The history of the common with renderings, the current state of the common as a whole, and potential future, what we might do for future. And I think if we have an opportunity to have a donor pay for that type of a thing, that's where I'm looking toward the education piece at the library, wherever we can disseminate it about, this is not just one project. You're looking at the whole common itself. And I agree, Andrew, we need to be more proactive, looking forward for other spaces that we, might want to use. I mean, the common over by St. Mary's Cemetery, the Union Cemetery, certainly comes to mind. But at this point, I think the board is going to vote in favor of the Wassaw Common location. I just think it would be prudent of us, and I would prefer not to have to ask a volunteer to do what I think is a job that a professional should get paid for. And it could turn out, I mean, with your experience, you could probably give us some suggestions as to someone who could do that sort of a job. And I would like to see that happen. So
just, I was a little unclear, so you want someone to analyze the whole park?
Yes.
not just oversee this project.
No, oh, no, I'm not in any way saying they should oversee this
Okay,
project.
that's what,
not what we understood.
that's what I
Well, I'm
understand.
sorry,
Yeah.
if I was inarticulate, I
No,
apologize.
that's what I.
I'm looking at this as a bigger. And for future generations, this will come up again. This will come up again. We may not all be around, but in 30, 40 years, someone's gonna bring something up and say, it's appropriate to put it, and you had to go digging for information. Historical Society had to start digging for information. So I look at this as an opportunity to create the history of the Lawson Common going back, plus, and there's still some holes in that whole history. And it's just an opportunity for us as a town to learn something and to let the town know that we didn't just say, oh, go put it on Lawson Common, that we looked at the whole thing.
So I understand what you're doing better.
Thank you.
But I don't know that we burden them with that cost, that's like a CBC project. It's more like we're making them litigation to put your statute, or you've got to do this analysis for us. But I do like the idea of doing it. Yeah.
So my thinking on this and having the oversight was to have somebody independent review the proposed location in the context of the Lawson the Lawson design, to make sure that this, which you obviously already know, that from a third party standpoint to say, yes, where they recommended does fit with the existing plan, which is, step one. I do agree that the larger plans should be done, go back to the memorial policies and things like that. But I do think it's outside of what we should be asking of this particular project. I mean, I think you have had the experience, I'm much more comfortable than I did not. I did watch the video, I missed that. What I learned in just my research and what the historical did is, they don't want it plopped in the middle, it's meant to be a glade and it's not, and that was sort of the biggest thing. So, but it would be nice, we're not experts, it would be nice to be able to say to the community, validate the location that was there. I think what you're talking about is necessary, that it's the, as Andrew said, the downstream momentum we can't lose. And this gives us a catalyst to get that stuff done. So I would move that we,
Sorry, I think you, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think we should move forward and then work with Jim to figure out the details of what we want in the MOU. It sounds like they're very willing to have those conversations with us. I feel comfortable with that.
What I was gonna say is what Mrs. Canfield's proposed is exactly what we've been saying all along, what Mrs. Connolly was proposing, that overseeing the whole park. That could be tens of thousands, you could spend $50,000-$75,000 on what you were proposing. So that's a big open-ended item to review the whole park, just FYI.
All right, so let's, are we ready to vote? Do we want to add into the motion that we want to add the architect component of it, or do we want to remove it? Karen wants it, doesn't sound like Karen thinks it's there, I think it's outside of that, I don't know what you guys think, but I don't want to make a motion and then have to do it all over.
I don't want to include it because I don't think the scope of it is clearly defined among this board. I don't think it's clearly, we're talking two different things, so I don't think it belongs.
So are you good with
I
doing it
understand
and
with
then
both
asking Jim to
positions.
go outside of this and put it in the memorandum of understanding to some extent, and then try to push that down another avenue? Because if what he says is correct, I don't think they wanna have to fundraise for another.
And I'm just saying that we wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for this project. So I'm just looking to, but I've said it a couple times, so.
Alright. Andrew, can you make a motion?
Yeah.
There is a motion in front of you in your packet that you can start with.
Motion to approve the installation of the John P. Connors Memorial on Lawson Park.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It's unanimous, 5-0. So we'll work out the details, Jimmy will work out the details, the concerns about the bigger picture, Karen's concerns about the placement and the evaluation for the whole park.
Yeah, I mean, they've agreed to pay for someone to review their project. So that's what we're looking at, and then I can talk to some landscape architects about looking at the entire thing and see what that would cost. I think it's gonna be, as you said, that's probably well expensive now.
Which is why never mind.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you very much, appreciate it, thanks for the help.
So, thank you, committee for us.
Yes, please.
All right, the next topic is the establishment of a bicycle commission, which has been postponed to our next meeting. And now we have some new business discussion vote on one-day licenses. Do I have a motion for the two one-day licenses?
Move to approve a one-day wine and malt license accepting catering for private event at the Scituate Maritime Center on Saturday, May 13th, 2023, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Further move to approve a one-day wine and malt license to Superior Servers for a private event at the Scituate Maritime Center on Friday, June 2nd, 2023, from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Second on the current, further discussion, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous, 5-0. Our next discussion vote is a renewal of a drain layer license for two companies.
Move to approve renewal of drain layers license for Riccio, is that, I'm saying that? Riccio Excavation Company and
McGecker.
Contracting Inc.
And a second? Second by Ms. Curran, further discussion, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous, 5-0. And lastly, we have a, next, we have a annual peddler's license.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Can someone remind me, the dinghy,
That's maybe not the young lady.
The dinghy is the truck that you approved last year.
it's the truck, it wasn't one of those.
It's a food truck.
A food truck, okay, it wasn't
Yes.
one of those boat.
No.
Okay, that's what I just wanted to double check.
No, it's a food
Okay,
truck.
I was like, how'd that slip in there?
Yes,
That's
no,
my
no,
question
no.
today, I was like.
No.
Is there, I'm sorry, is there still one hawker license open or is there a cap or something? Or-
We do have some hawker peddler licenses available. We've had probably 3 or 4 inquiries recently.
People want to hawk.
But the boat guys never came back.
Have not heard back, no.
All right, a motion?
Move the select board approve to renew the hawker and peddler licenses for the following businesses for the 2023 season. Pending board of health approval and receipt of required documents in the select board office. Sports Ice Cream, Zack's Ice Cream, The Dinghy, Notice No Meeting Inc. Further move that the select board approve to renew the parking lot license for John P. Davis Realty Trust for the 2023 season, the hours of operation Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
That's the Humrock parking lot, right next to Humrock Beach entrance, the Davis Realty.
Oh,
Trust.
yes, yep, got it, okay.
It's been there for many, many
Yeah,
years.
I know where it is now.
Second. Second by Ms. Curran, further discussion, seeing none, all in favor? Aye, it's unanimous. Other business, do we have any liaison reports?
No, the DEI committee's gonna, I think, contact Ray and come before the board, hopefully, in June timeframe to update just on their progress, as they should be.
How about correspondence?
We have lots of it, some of it has passed, but especially I just wanted to bring to people's attention that the Coastal Heritage Bank has a coastal beach sweep team. They already did something, I think, on the 17th, but certainly a nice initiative. They clean up our beaches, so thank you for doing that to them, and if anybody's interested in joining them in the future, I'm sure that they would welcome that assistance. Several letters, as Chairman Vignani had all mentioned, regarding letters in opposition to the discussion that we just had. But I think we represented pretty much every position that those letters represented. And then also several letters from different committees, such as the Irish Heritage Trail Committee, and whatnot, supporting the Pier 44 project. So again, post-meeting, I think several letters from folks there. But really exciting thing, I know Jim, did you talk about this, the police report for the female officers?
No,
And your update? So this is great, Lorraine, thank you for sharing, because to the Karens, sorry, Karen, it's not nice to say Karens, I apologize. You know, as you brought up, you know, there's the newspaper periodicals are just non-existent, so hard to get local news. And Scituate was called out for making history, it's accidentally having the first all-female, what do I want to say, like coverage, patrol shift in the police department, which is just great. And we have one of the largest percentages of female officers in the South Shore. So proud of them, and even with Deputy Lieutenant Seaverman, I said that right.
Deputy Stephen.
Deputy Chief. I always mess up those titles, but they do such a great job, and it was really, really nice to have that called out. So it's a nice article and folks can read it. So congratulations to them, we're really proud of them. Let's see, there's a lot of correspondence, so I think that really was it, really this one.
Okay. Any other final?
Oh, the Absolute Auction event, that's one more that we need to call out. The town is auctioning off a number of properties on Wednesday, May 17th at 11 a.m. All auction sales are going to be held at the Scituate Harbor Community Building at 44 Jericho Road. So is this list on the website?
It's on the website, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere, okay, so folks, okay, just.
We
I
get
just
a
wanna
lot of
let
calls
folks-
about it.
Yeah, okay,
A lot of
good,
calls.
just as long as people know where to find the properties, so, yeah, get in line.
Thank you, Maura. All right, lastly, can I have a motion to adjourn and sign documents?
So moved.
Do we need to accept minutes, I think?
Oh,
We do?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't we?
Yep, let's take
Two
those.
sets of meeting minutes, yes.
How about that?
Move to accept the minutes for the select board meeting held on April 4th, 2023 and April 10th, 2023.
Second by
Second.
Mr. Goodrich, further discussion, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Now, can I have a motion to adjourn and sign documents?
So moved.
Second by Scanfield, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Good night, everybody.
So-